Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Kieran and I help people using a spiritual perspective. I also hold green party cups because I don't have any glasses that are clean. So guys, I'm here to talk about politics. Kind of fun, right? Not really. Boring. Who gives a shit? Not spiritual. Just a bunch of people talking, ego, blah, 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 blah. Right? Kind of this idea in spirituality that politics is this sort of no topic. Let's not get involved with something so 3D. Right? I would be the first to admit to you right now, viewer, watcher, does that sound weird to say, viewer? That I don't give a shit about politics. I don't know anything, really. Well, I know a lot about history, but I don't necessarily know a lot about politics in the sense of, how many years is a senator allowed to serve? I don't know. My ignorance is on full display. There are lots of things about politics that I am not completely aware of. From the term limits to the necessary sort of powers that they have, whether it's senators, state representatives. There's a lot that I don't know, and there's a lot that people don't know, especially Americans. There's a lot that they don't know, and it is a difficult thing to talk about, even just in any circle, right? There's always the topic of religion and politics, right? You don't talk about that at the dinner table. Presumably, you can sit with people at the dinner table that have sexually assaulted you in your past, and that's all right, but don't talk about politics or religion, whatever. But politics is this vast subject, this very big, wide array of people, policies, regulations, and things that happen within government that a lot of us either take for granted or just don't give a shit about or don't participate in any kind of form or just have entirely misguided opinions about. So I will admit that my knowledge on politics, specifically American politics, is very limited, but I do know enough to know that I know very little. So when I look back at my life and I look back at my spiritual awakening and I think how many times I've personally said, well, politics is bullshit. Politics is, just a bunch of egomaniacs running around. Nothing to do with me. Doesn't matter. My vote doesn't make a difference, things of that nature. And, it's not spiritual. It's this very ego 3D closed off world. And I've had that in my brain, and I've had other spiritual people sort of reiterate that in various forms and different words. That essentially, so many people that practice spirituality don't know or care or want to care about politics. They don't know anything about it. They don't want to be involved. It's not spiritual. It's not part of the spiritual journey, right? We'd rather focus on mindfulness and spirit guides and our twin flame relationships or relationships in general, finding a soulmate or manifesting the law of attraction and buying crystals. We would rather things be feel good, lovey-dovey, light, beautiful, rainbow candy. Wow, candies everywhere. I love them. That we want life to be like that. We want life to be sweet and chocolatey. We want spirituality to be sweet and yummy and chocolatey, like a banana split. We want it to be high sugar. I want it to be, yeah, fuck yeah. I want to eat that up. I don't want to eat the kale and the carrots and all the other shit that doesn't taste that good. Nor do we want to be uncomfortable with maybe not eating at all. So there is this notion within spirituality, and I'm trying to sum up for you, that politics is a sort of no word. We don't want to talk about it. We don't want to get involved with it. Right? Water break. However, my thinking has changed. My thinking has changed to realize how important it is, actually, for us, for humans, regardless of our spirituality, to be involved with being human. Which means to be involved with society, to be involved with the changes and the happenings of the world that's going on around us. Because there is a place for spirituality in politics, or politics has a place in spirituality. Spirituality is the understanding of ourselves, is the connection that you're trying to make to understand your place in the world, in the universe. You're trying to understand yourself at a deep level. That's my sort of version of spirituality. And politics does not contradict that. Politics is what's going on in the world. And we all like to think that we can be awakened and free and do this and that and not pay attention to politics, but it would be very hard to be the type of person that you're trying to be with your spiritual awakening in a dictatorship or a sort of authoritarian regime, right? Or in a country that doesn't have basic traffic laws or basic safety, right? In a country where so many people are poor, or impoverished. How is that helping your spiritual awakening? So there's this notion that within spirituality, especially New Age spirituality, that the problems of the world are just sort of, let's not worry about them. Let's not talk about the problems of the world. Let's not take real action to get involved with things that actually do make a difference. So today is a midterm election in the United States. It's very important for the future of this country, actually. A lot of things are sort of on the table. And all of them really represent some form of democracy. Lots of things in the United States are kind of going backwards, and so many people believe the election of 2020 was rigged, no evidence, and so many people are willing to support people, specifically like people like Donald Trump, that are actually like, holy shit, that's not a good leadership choice. And it's not about even being a liberal or conservative. It's about looking at things and going, that doesn't seem right. There's something off there. And yet we don't want to face that because it's uncomfortable to talk about. It's uncomfortable to kind of get into the dirt of it because it's so large, it's so outside of the scope of what we can control or handle that it's honestly just easier not to care. And I used to, again, be this type of person who would say, oh, spirituality, don't worry about it. Politics, spirituality, don't worry about it. Nothing to do with each other, right? But as I get older and as I learn more and sort of get to understand myself more, I realize how much we just simply don't want to deal with things that are confusing or hard to understand immediately. And spirituality is just this feel-good process that we just want to make so, right? When in actuality, it's a very difficult, uncomfortable process that involves you having a place in the world. So if you wanted to get involved with politics, then you should, if you wanted to learn about that, because who you vote for or who you support or what kind of laws and practices you want in the town or the state that you live in affect your daily life. And a lot of people are not aware of this. They're not aware of how important like city government is or local government. It's very important, actually. And we just don't want to, as spiritual people, we don't want to participate in it. We don't want to learn. Even though, like, your country, in the blink of an eye, before you know it, because time does go very fast, things can change rapidly. You think about in the space of a year, well, how's that going to affect my life, my spiritual awakening, all this type of stuff. But next thing you know, you're 40, you're 50, and it's like, holy shit, I don't even recognize where I live anymore. And that's sort of how dictators start. That's how dictatorships start. That's how, people start. People voted Hitler into power. That, people voted these people into power. There wasn't like a rigged election, right? Or even if there was, that they did vote these people. The first time Putin was voted into power. So you have these people that are considered authoritarian sort of dictators throughout history and in recent history that actually were voted in through democratic means, and people just wanted to believe that stuff because they weren't informed. And it's dangerous when spiritual people who are here to bring some type of love and light and understanding to the world's issues, to show the world that it's not just about the 3D, right? It's important for us to get involved in some way with the causes of the world. It doesn't have to necessarily be politics, but politics brings up a larger point, that so many people within this spiritual world, they don't want to get involved with taking real action. They don't want to do anything about climate change, or they don't want to, start some type of movement, or they don't want to be a part of politics. They don't want to understand those things because it's sort of uncomfortable or unsavory, not spiritual, right? I'm all about love and light, and spirit, politics is so beneath me. That's such an arrogant attitude. And I'm saying that I know that it's an arrogant attitude because I'm saying that I had that arrogant attitude. It comes from a place of apathy, arrogance, and a general lack of understanding. And while politics is certainly certainly a far cry from anything that is fun or easy to understand or even innocent, right? It's very, very corrupt in many of its forms, but that's essentially and exactly why spiritual people need to learn about it a little bit more, right? And I'm learning about it a little bit more. Just things that you can do. It doesn't matter if you're watching an educational program, reading a book, listening to others talk about it, getting engaged in some way. It helps the world and helps you to know a little bit or to care a little bit about kind of what's going on and to not use spirituality as an excuse to put that stuff on the back burner. When it does affect your life, and it will in the future affect your life more than you could understand now, right? Or it would affect your kids' lives, right? So there's a lot of stuff that happens within that world that it would benefit from spirituality. Politics would benefit from spirituality. So to shy away from it is almost irresponsible. You don't want to get to this idea of a society where we're sort of awakened beings and yet none of us take part in politics to get there. I mean, do people have this idea in their head that we're all just going to be meditating all day as this advanced civilization where everything just takes care of itself? You do realize, like, if you believe that we're here as spiritual beings to make Earth's vibration, rise, if that's the narrative that we're going with here, just for this moment, which I don't know, I wouldn't use all that language necessarily, but I do believe that that's, we're here to do that. We're here to make society better each time. We're here to make ourselves better each time. That, that if we just that we wouldn't have to participate, we would have to, right? The government wouldn't exist. Of course, it would have to exist. We would have to take part in it, right? So, politics is corrupt, and there's a lot of stuff that's confusing. Sure, absolutely, but spiritual people belong in there. People with spiritual perspectives belong in politics because they are the people that would actually be able to not only maybe make the right changes, but also empathize with what's going on, rather than being some sort of cold, calculating, rich person behind the scenes, right? You don't really want that stuff kind of going on in the future. I wouldn't want to live in a world where that just continues. So not participating in it and pretending that it does not affect you or that it's not real, that it's not spiritual, or that all this other kind of stuff, that's a very, ignorant or arrogant thing to sort of believe. And again, I'm the first to admit that I have actually, given into these thoughts or believed them. But I don't anymore, and that's totally fine because new information and new understandings of spirituality and yourself and the world happen over time. So this is just sort of a video about saying, like, hey, we should get involved. Politics is not this dangerous thing to spirituality. Like I said earlier, we are here to remind people that Earth is not just this 3D place, right? It's not just this physical kind of manifestation, right? It's not just that, but we also can't get lost in spirituality and only think that it's this too, that it's this ethereal feel, that it's energy, that it's universal, that there's all these kinds of synchronicities and experiences that are sort of supernatural or otherworldly. It's not just about focusing on the 5D or the 4D or any of that stuff either, because if you do that, you get lost in that world and you start ignoring what's happening in this one. There needs to be a balance between the two. You can't just favor one or the other because one is making you uncomfortable, right? And that's what a lot of the 3D people do. They don't focus on spirituality or a connection with themselves because it's uncomfortable, because it's scary. They don't want to do stuff like that. And it's the same way. We don't want, as spiritual people, there's a lot of stuff that's part of the earth that we don't want to focus on because it's uncomfortable. It's the same idea. Nobody's necessarily at fault, unless you're going to blame uncomfortable feelings, I suppose, but that's sort of life, isn't it? So, for me to you, take a moment in your life at some point, hopefully soon, to involve yourself in something. It doesn't have to be a political cause, but to involve yourself in something that could make a difference in your community, something like that, you know. And it starts with something very simple, which is just maybe reading a book about, you know, or just watching something educated, you know. It starts with that kind of stuff, and that's sort of what I've been doing over the past few weeks, and I've just been realizing how there's a lot I don't understand and a lot that we as spiritual people, as spiritually awakened people, could actually influence if that was our particular path. It's not my particular path to get involved in politics. I'm creative. I'm here like a writer, a musician. Like, I'm here to focus on that type of stuff. But there are people out there, I assume, that maybe want to get involved with this stuff, but they don't necessarily feel it's a comfortable thing for a spiritual person to do. And I would be here to just remind you that even if it's just something like wanting to talk about it, that, you know, I support that vision. So that's the video, guys. I hope you guys have a great week. I'll talk to you soon.